Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and we have a lot to talk about with iOS 18 features, iPhone 16 battery size, M4 Max, and even iOS 17.5 Beta 2, which we expect later this week. This is your weekly Apple News update for the week of April 15th, 2024. Apple recently allowed emulators on the App Store, and iGBA became very popular very quickly. However, that ended yesterday when Apple pulled the app related to spam and copyright violations. Apple today actually responded to the app removal, saying it initially approved the app, but then pulled it when it found out that it was basically an exact copy of another app. They didn't specify which app, but it was probably GBA for iOS, which has long been distributed outside the App Store. So hopefully we see that app come very soon, or we just see more apps that really take advantage of the emulator possibilities on the iPhone. Apple today updated the Apple Sports app with NHL and NBA playoffs. They continue to update this as the seasons progress, and you'll see that we do have NFL here, but it says it returns next season. So as we get closer to the new seasons, we'll see that here. Whether or not we have the Olympics and other things in here, though, is yet to remain known. So we'll see once we get closer to that time. A recent study in the USA actually showed that 85% of teens surveyed own an iPhone, according to Piper Sandler's biannual teen survey. This isn't really a surprise, as many teens have iPhones in the United States. However, what is surprising is that those same teens that were surveyed seem to prefer Spotify by 2/3, with only 30% actually using Apple Music. Also, when it comes to Apple Watch, only about 35% even use one, or 34%, and it's up about 3% from last year. But it seems many teens don't actually use an Apple Watch. It could be something related to money, maybe they'll get one later on, but either way, maybe they just don't want to wear a watch on their wrist. A new office building is being leased by Apple in Miami to provide an upgrade to the smaller office that's already located there. This is according to Mark Gurman at Bloomburg, and this should provide about 45,000 square feet of office space. Apple is now allowing repair shops to use genuine used parts to repair iPhones when needed or they're available. This is something I mentioned before, but what I didn't mention is iFixit has actually been critical of Apple, saying that they don't allow third-party parts to be used to repair the devices. However, John Turnus at Apple has said in many cases Apple does allow it, but in cases where security matters with Face ID and Touch ID, those parts need to be verified to be genuine to make sure that that isn't really maliciously gathering any of your information. So that's something that they're still making sure is locked to the device, but most parts can be used, it seems. Also, I talked last week about how sideloading was changed in the EU that allows for browser selection and more on the iPhone for the first time. According to Reuters, 6 different companies they reached out to had seen a significant increase in use, but it seems they still aren't happy with Apple's implementation. The concern is that Apple has made it difficult to easily choose an alternate browser where it doesn't give enough additional information as to what those browsers can offer, and then ultimately it leads to people just using Safari instead. So the EU is continuing to investigate this if these claims are true, but let me know what you think if you've seen this in the EU and what browser you chose. Now, just in case you didn't see it in the last video on Saturday, I wanted to make sure you were aware of a new security notification some are receiving from Apple. If we go over to the website here, they have a new support document that says about Apple threat notifications and protecting against mercenary spyware. This is basically for individuals, but they did send this out, and you can see there's a threat notification under the Apple ID sign-in. It says Apple sent you a threat notification via email and iMessage, and it gives the time. So this is something that they're just pushing out, which is designed to inform and assist users who have been individually targeted by mercenary spyware attacks. That's likely because of who they are or what they do. So if you've seen this, it informs you that you may want to use lockdown mode just to sort of secure your device and account. Apple continues to work on future chipsets, so A18, A19, or whatever they're going to call the future processors, and they work with TSMC, who manufactures those chips with Apple Silicon. They're getting closer to 2 nanometers and even 1.4 nanometer chips for future devices. That's according to Digitizes, and that would allow for more efficiency, better thermal regulation, and much more. So hopefully they're better than what we have with the 3 nanometer chips. However, Apple could do a little bit better job with the thermal regulation of the iPhone in general. According to a report from MarketWatch, it seems that those who own Apple Vision Pro actually have had quite a few complaints of headaches or neck issues due to its weight. I know when I first used it, it actually caused quite a bit of eye strain or headaches for me, and it's since sort of gone away and it doesn't really bother me anymore. However, after using it for a long session, maybe 2 hours, it does start to actually hurt on my face around the surround of where the padding is. I've tried different options, but it's just the overall weight that starts to make your face a little bit sore. The most severe report actually said that the weight on their cheeks gave them a black eye. So that's something I haven't seen personally, as it rests on my cheeks and doesn't even touch my nose, where it does sort of rest on some people's noses. But for me, I find it's pretty comfortable until it's about an hour and a half or 2 hours into use. But the eye issues with the flashing displays and more don't seem to bother me as much as I thought they would. Now, if you've been looking for an Apple Watch, the Apple Watch Series 9 is now available on the refurbished store in select countries. I don't see it in the United States just yet. As I scroll through here, we basically have the Apple Watch SE second generation, but in some countries, the Apple Watch Series 9 is showing here. And as far as weekly deals this week, well, the M3 MacBook Air is $100 off, sold by Apple on Amazon, and the M2 13-inch MacBook Air is $150 off. There's deals on iPads and more, but also the AirPods Pro 2 are still down to $189.99, again sold by Apple on Amazon. I'll link all of the latest deals in the description as Apple continually updates this. Now, iOS 17.5 Beta 2 should be out this week. Usually with the early betas, we have a bi-weekly sort of release schedule that they follow. They haven't really stuck to this 100% in the past, but it seems likely that on the 16th or 17th, we could have Beta 2. Now, as far as iOS 17.4.2, there's been no signs of that yet in any analytics and different websites, so we don't really know if Apple's working on that. However, we do expect iOS 17.5 to release sometime in early May, so that's what we're expecting there. But as far as the big features, iOS 18 Beta 1 is expected on June 10th after the keynote at WWDC. So usually around maybe 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have the release of that beta with all of the new features and major changes that we expect. Of course, with a public release of iOS 18 probably in September, right around the iPhone 16 launch. That's typically what we have every year. And as far as iOS 18, well, it's still expected to be a major upgrade this year. All of the regular leakers are actually saying this where they haven't said this in the past. So the major ones that have been right, such as Mark Gurman, is not expected a huge update until this year. And of course, we're looking more into AI this year. That's what we're expecting. And there have been rumors of Apple working with companies such as Google using Gemini AI, OpenAI, and other companies such as Baidu. But according to Mark Gurman in his Power On newsletter this weekend, it seems the AI features will not rely on external cloud servers at all for the initial round of features in iOS 18. This would mean that all the features can work within the iPhone on the processor itself with the internal chipset. Now, whether or not that will work on the current chipsets or need future chipsets, we don't really know 100%, but this would be great as many are concerned with privacy, and Apple being able to process that AI individually without the cloud would be a great way to preserve that overall for the individual. iOS 18 is also expected to include a new Safari browsing assistant along with encrypted visual search. I talked about this the other day, but it's been confirmed a little bit more by Aaron Paris of MacRumors, who confirmed the code exists as well, but the details are sparse at this point. Apple continues to publish papers on how it's working or implementing AI, and the latest versions explain how Apple is teaching AI to understand the app screens in general. Apple is working on what they call Ferret UI, which is a generative AI system that can make sense of the app screens themselves and could help to make Siri much better. So whether or not it's explaining what's on the display like it does with some images already, or just understands where touch points are throughout the apps, we don't really know specifics, but it looks like Apple's working on many different generative AI models to really make it next level with their next iPhones. Now, iPhone 16, of course, we keep hearing more and more news as Apple gets closer and closer to manufacturing them, getting hundreds of millions ready for that September launch, or at least tens of millions, and the upcoming iPhone 16 is expected to have an updated design. This time around, the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus will feature a vertical camera to help with recording spatial photo and video. However, the new colors this year were recently leaked by Fox Focus Digital on Weibo, who expects similar colors to what we have now, with blue, pink, yellow, green, and black, black, similar to what we have, but also expects white and purple. So we could see all of those colors launch with 7 total colors. Back in February, we heard from Majin Buu on X or Twitter that the battery capacities for the iPhone 16 models would get a slight increase for some of them. However, the iPhone 16 Plus is said to get a slight decrease. A new leaker on Weibo has actually stated that the same capacities exist that were reported earlier. So it looks like they're sort of lining up at this point, and we would get a 6% bump in the regular iPhone 16 over the 15. The 15 Plus would actually decrease by 9%. The Pro would gain 2.5%. And the Pro Max would gain 5% battery life. If true, every model would get a big bump as far as that goes. However, we still aren't seeing the capacities that we see in other phone manufacturers, such as 5,000 milliamp hours. Also, some good news actually coming from the Naver blog, it's been fairly reliable, has said that the upcoming iPhone 16 Pro models will help improve issues with the lens flare and also ghosting that's found on the current models. So that's something that many people have been concerned with. And in some cases, many people like lens flare, but in others, you just don't want it to be there. Having the option to actually get rid of that, or maybe it's using AI to do that, or just a new type of lens. Either way, I think many people would welcome that. Now, we're still expecting updates to iPads next month. With that iPad launch, we're not expecting any sort of event, and this was again mentioned by Digitizes this week. Apple will seemingly favor press releases and videos online to showcase what is new with the upcoming devices. It's expected to launch sometime around the launch of iOS 17.5 and iPadOS 17.5. So probably just some press releases with upgraded displays with OLED, updated frames, maybe a new Apple Pencil, as well as a FaceTime camera that's in landscape. So we don't really know what else to expect. Maybe MagSafe, some people have reported, but we'll have to wait and see as far as that goes. There was some big news about Macs this week that was a little bit unexpected. Mark Gurman said this week to expect Apple to push M4 chips by the end of the year. This is despite lacking M3 Ultra chips in the current Mac Mini or Mac Studio models. So we don't have M3 in the Mac Mini or M3 Ultra in the Mac Studio, but Apple is working to get its chipsets for the Mac released on a yearly basis. So based on the latest information, it seems like a low-end 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M4 would be coming toward the end of the year, along with a 24-inch iMac again as well. Also, new 14 and 16-inch high-end MacBook Pros between maybe the end of 2024 and early 2025, with a Mac Mini with M4 and M4 Pro would be at the end of 2024 as well into 2025. A 13-inch and 15-inch MacBook Air are said to be more in 2025, with the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro again coming in 2025. So all of those things are expected. Also with the Apple Watch this year, we thought we'd get mini LED displays for the Apple Watch Ultra, but it seems like Apple's scrapped that. But every year we do get an updated version, and it seems this year they're planning to use a lower energy version of the OLED display. That would help with the overall battery capacity, according to the elec, where we could maybe extend the battery overall, since the display is using less power. So maybe we'll get that combined with a larger battery and help extend the Apple Watch life even more. So that's everything so far this week with iOS 18, iPhone 16, iPads, Macs, Apple Watch, and much more. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below, and as soon as iOS 17.5 Beta 2 is out, I'll be sure to let you know about that as well. Of course, if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.